there anyone new that's going to speak?
Yes, Jason Barron is here from Parks. He'll be going last.
How do you spell his last name?
B-A-R-R-O-N. Yep.
Sorry about it.
Evening and afternoon, they're both mine. People have strong opinions about this.
I know, that's what it is.
And Jason, that's Smale Park, is that the
This is Sawyer Point.
Sawyer Point Park?
Yep.
Matt, well, with most of the cars on the show are saying it's secret. That's what people see. There's nobody in the car.
Hey Matt.
Yeah.
You looked great in your coat earlier. You sure? I think you may want to put that back on.
So I wanted to go a little more low-key.
You really were popping.
Oh, jeez. Wait till the next one. I know exactly.
You're not exactly right.
Got enough time to run back and change. Okay, I've got 60 seconds till 5 p.m. if that works for everybody.
They're going to start at 60 seconds. Time changes tomorrow, man. Sunday.
I have Okay, I got 5, 4, 3.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. My name is Frank McKinley. I'm the fire chief of the Cincinnati Fire Department. At 0300 this morning, 0330 this morning, we received several calls for a fire that was on the bridge. And so we dispatched units. We had several units that were dispatched. We had 3 fire engines, 1 fire truck, also a heavy rescue, and a district chief that arrived on scene to just determine that there was a fire in 1,000 Hands playground here in Sawyer Point. And it was very important for us to extinguish it because of some of the destruction that has happened. There's been a lot of spalding, there's been a lot of structural integrity compromising, and so we want to talk specifically about some of the things that we're asking the public to do. We're really asking the public to stay away from this area, the 1,000 Hands playground. It's really important because structural integrity is still being investigated. There's a lot of things going on here at the park, and number one, it's a safety issue. And so I want to emphasize that. So stay away from this area. It's a heavy traffic. It's a lot of traffic in the area, and it's important for us to make sure that we communicate this. I'm going to bring up Assistant Chief Matthew Flagler to discuss about some of the specific details that we've done since extinguishing the fire. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Like the chief said, we have been on scene since about 3:30 a.m. We had about 60 firefighters on the scene here extinguishing the fire. The fire, we do believe, started underneath the bridge. There was multiple reports of vehicles on fire on the bridge. There was no vehicle on fire on a bridge. The fire started underneath the bridge. in or near the Thousand Hands Playground, and the heat from that fire actually transmitted up and caught some of the materials that are part of that bridge on fire. There's some electrical conduit, some construction netting, and some other features that we think caught on fire there. That's what caused the damage to that bridge. There were no hazardous materials involved or released as part of this fire. The fire on the ground level was extinguished relatively quickly by our firefighters in about 30 minutes. However, the fire that was involving the bridge components was pretty complex for us to extinguish. Took a fair amount of time, several hours, for us to declare it completely under control. We are maintaining a presence here on the scene, coordinating the fire investigation that is ongoing. There's a lot of damage to the scene and a lot of damage to the area under the bridge, so it's a painstaking process for our investigators, and they're working through that right now. We're having great cooperation from Cincinnati Police and some of our federal partners to make sure that we have a thorough investigation. So I don't have a lot of information about the status of the investigation other than it is ongoing, and like I said, there were no injuries associated with this incident. We're still going to be coordinating some on-scene efforts for some time, and then I'll leave it to the Department of Transportation to give you some updates on closures and road closures, and we'll answer any questions following everyone else's presentation, because that might answer your questions to begin with.
Hey everybody, Matt Bruning, Press Secretary for the Ohio Department of Transportation. So first of all, ODOT has launched a new website where people can get updates, both the public and you in the media, and that is transportation.ohio.gov/471-FIRE. So transportation.ohio.gov/471-FIRE is the website. Again, we're posting updates there after each of these briefings. We'll also be continuing to update our social media accounts on X, that is ODOT_Cincinnati, and on Facebook, that is Ohio Department of Transportation, Cincinnati District 8. Those are two places that I would highly encourage you to follow for continuing updates. Our inspectors have completed looking at the northbound side of the north approach, just north of the actual bridge itself. We are working with KYTC right now on developing a plan for how we could reopen at least a couple of those northbound lanes at some point. We don't yet have a timetable for when that will happen. There's a lot of coordination that needs to be done to make sure that that can be done safely. But we are still working on that, so stay tuned for details on that. Again, we'll probably be posting any further updates on that first on our social media accounts, so make sure you're following us there. As for the southbound side, that is going to remain closed until further notice. There is a substantial amount of damage there. In fact, again, don't have a timetable on that. We've got at least three of the girders that will need to be replaced. The deck above those girders will also need to be replaced. And there's a sign truss up there that you might be able to see from here that is severely compromised. That needs to be removed and replaced as well. We have entered into an emergency contract with Great Lakes Construction. They will be here and hope to get work done, or work started tonight. So we're going to get going on this to get this whole thing repaired as quickly as we can. Again, don't have a timetable on when all of those repairs will be made. Stay tuned for that. Last thing I want to just update you on is I cannot stress enough, we need people to not be moving barricades and driving around barricades. There are a lot of closures down here. Those closures are in place for a reason, and it's your safety. So we just cannot stress enough, please do not move and drive around those barricades and anywhere down here. As for detour information, I'm going to bring my colleague Kathleen Fuller, our District 8 Public Information Officer, up to go over that. Kathleen.
Thank you, Matt. Yes, Kathleen Fuller with the Ohio Department of Transportation District 8. And of course, as he has already said, I-471 southbound is closed until further notice, and our detour will be I-71 and I-75 south. We do want to remind everyone too that access to I-471 south is strictly prohibited. We have closed access at Liberty Way, 5th Street, the 50 west and east access points to I-471 south. And as you can see, we also have Pete Rose Way closed here traveling east. And if you are on Riverside Drive traveling west into the city, that is closed on the other side of the approach span as well. Obviously with Pete Rose Way, there's traffic here in downtown that can use Eggleston. Those traveling from the east side, traveling west into downtown, you'll want to try to get off onto Columbia Parkway because US 50 does remain open to through traffic But again, divert over to Columbia Parkway off of US 52 or Riverside Drive, and probably the best bet would be to use Delta Avenue. There's a signalized intersection there at Columbia. So we do want to encourage people to plan ahead, be prepared. This is going to be a long-term closure. And again, do not try to cross any of those closed access points whatsoever. And again, you can visit us at ogo.com, OHGO, to get updates on those traffic impacts and the detours. Thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to Corey Wilson with Kentucky Transportation Cabinet to talk about their side of the closures. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Corey Wilson with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. Kentucky has continued to be on site all day throughout this entire process, assisting with ODOT's inspection efforts in the area that's been immediately impacted, but also to take a look at some other areas on the bridge just to verify and make sure and to have a comfort level that everything is safe and sound, even outside of the area that's been immediately impacted. So we've been doing that today. We've also been working with ODOT. As you've heard, we're talking about potential traffic changes coming on the northbound side. Currently, I-471 is closed from 275 to the river in Kentucky. And we're working, like I said, with ODOT to develop the traffic plan for those changes. And we'll certainly keep everyone updated through our social media and press releases as that changes. So keep an eye on that. But in the meantime, just continue to check your GPS, continue to look for updates on social media so that you know the best way to get where you're going and plan ahead to get where you need to be. Thank you, and I'm going to turn it over to Jason Barron with the Parks Department.
Good evening. My message is pretty simple, and it echoes what a lot of people have said already. We need folks to stay away from the park right now. This is for park safety. The number one thing when people come to parks to have fun, not to have safety issues, right? And so right now, we've got a bridge that we've got a lot of really smart people that are looking at making sure that's safe and making sure that anybody who comes down to the park is safe, and we want to listen to those folks. So we've set up a lot of barriers, as you heard from other people. We're trying to make sure that you know where you can't go, but you've got to do your part and listen to us and make sure that you stay away from those areas. We want to make sure that when folks can come back to the park, it's a safe place, it's an enjoyable place. Parks are for smiles. Right now, though, we've got to make sure everybody's safe. We've got to keep folks out of the park, and so they stay safe. So, thank you all.
Chief McKinley, back up. And the Chief can take any questions.
Matt and Corey, you said you had the emergency contract in place. Do you have like a ballpark amount that you set it for? Corey, any timeline on when northbound might be open?
We don't have, I don't have a firm figure yet for you, but the goal here is to get this reopened as quickly and safely as possible. That's what we're going to do with this emergency contract. So,
Assistant Chief Flagger, you said there was electrical back there. You didn't say that was the cause, right? There's like electrical lines and lights and everything. Anything else back there?
There's electric that supplies the park. We worked with Duke Energy to make sure that there was any electric transmission lines. There was no electric transmission lines that were involved or near that. Any power that was nearby has been secured. We do not have that as any part of the cause of the fire yet. It's still under investigation.
Lines down or anything like that?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Are you any closer to determining a cause of the fire? Is that something that could take hours, days, weeks?
It's like I said, it's a painstaking process. I leave it to the investigators. We brought in some other resources to help us just get a better picture of the scene and understand maybe what happened. And we're going to work our hardest to get a good answer as quick as we can. But we got to be thorough, and it takes a while.
For folks seeing those videos of just those flames going that high in the air, can you guys speak to just a little bit of what caused those flames to get so high in the air and cause that second fire?
Well, actually, it was the fuel load that was involved. There were a lot of synthetic materials. There was wood in the air, and all those things combined to create that large tunnel of flames. And so that's actually what caused it.
What would cause the fire on the bridge itself?
Well, actually, the fire was in the park, and when it wraps around the bridge itself wasn't actually on fire because it's non-combustible. However, the flames that you saw were feeding off the air that was supplying the oxygen, had enough oxygen in it to supply those flames and make them go into that tall funnel.
So there wasn't a second fire, it was just all one
Correct.
fire?
Yes.
Okay.
Given that there's still questions about structural integrity, what's the first step for the contractors when they get here tonight?
I know that they're going to look at shoring up before they do any more work to make sure, because of the safety and the compromise that was caused by the fire.
So the Brent Spence took 6 weeks and $3 million. Is Matt or Corey, can you speak to, will people be in that kind of ballpark for the wait and time? I know that the cost you can't determine yet. You got to get emergency steel. We know that how hard that is. But in terms of the time.
Well, there are a lot of things that are similar, but there are a lot of things that are different too. And so it's always hard to compare one to the other. Yes, there are similarities, both damaged severely by fire, a lot of work to do to get these things reopened. But the damage here is a little different than the damage there. So it's just hard to say, okay, well, it's definitely going to take this time frame and this amount of money, because that's what it did in 2020 at Brent Spence. There's just a lot of different factors at play with each individual project. They're all separate.
Can you give a range for northbound? Is it going to be days, weeks? Is it safe for southbound?
Well, I think it's safe to say it's going to be weeks.
Okay,
for the southbound side. That's where the bulk of the damage is. So obviously once the contractor gets in there, starts looking at things, starts giving us some feedback on how long they think it will take to get materials here, get their employees and work crews here as well, that will all factor into that time frame. So we really don't know. I just would be shocked if it is days. It's a lot of damage up there.
What about northbound? Will northbound be weeks as well?
No, I think northbound we're closer to because there's less damage there. Right now it's a lot of coordinating with Kentucky to make sure that we have a traffic pattern set up that is safe, and that's what we're working on right now with Kentucky. So our inspectors have done that inspection of the northbound bridge, or the northbound section of the approach to the bridge, and we think it's safe to get a couple lanes open there. Now it's just working on when can we do that, and so that's what we're working on right now.
You've been stressing, whoever would like to answer this question, the safety, keeping people out of the area. For folks, what would be the immediate concerns that could happen if somebody were to try and go into the fenced off area?
Well, again, we spoke to the structural integrity of it, and so when we have a fire of that nature, when it gets heated and cooled off real quick, we have this effect that's called spalding. And so we still, from time to time, may see some concrete still falling from the bridge, and so it's just the impact from the fire, the structural integrity, and so we don't want pieces of the bridge to fall and strike anyone.
When you reopen it for northbound, is there any consideration of making that two-way?
Yeah. At this point in talking to our folks, it seems like that would take a lot of different things to get that configured on the bridge, and really I don't think it's there's a much of a return on investment there on the time for that. Our focus is to get those northbound lanes open as quickly as we can once we feel like that's safe and easy to do. And then the southbound obviously has more damage. It's going to take a little longer, but there are a lot of different alternates. I guess maybe that would be a different situation if there were no alternates at all to this. But there are a lot of different options for people to take. Obviously planning ahead, being patient, but at the end of the day, we're going to get this open as quickly as we can once it's safe to do that.
Are we able to deem either way whether the fire was suspicious yet?
It's still under investigation. At this point, we're not ruling anything out, and we want to make sure that we're sure before we share that with the public. And so we're doing our due diligence, reviewing videos, reviewing pictures, all things. Our arson investigators are still out here looking, and so we don't want to just put something out there. We want to make sure that we're sure. There are several different cameras that we've accessed to just be able to see what we can find out, and so it takes time, and we have to be able to analyze some of the things that we're seeing.
Chief, you go into detail just a little bit more about some of that synthetic material that was under the bridge.
Right. So it's a lot of plastics that were involved in the playground, and so because of the material, the synthetic materials involved in that, that's what created a lot of the heat that was being produced by it and a lot of the flames that you were seeing. And so that's just one of the fuel sources that was down there for the fire to be as large as it is.
Will there be any further press conferences later on tonight about this?
No, there won't be any more press conferences, and we'll keep you all notified of the next time we're preparing to do a press conference.
Any last questions?
Yeah, so just to confirm with the northbound lanes, they look pretty good right now. You're just trying to determine
Yeah, I mean, obviously our folks have done the inspection with, we call it a snooper truck. It's like a big bucket truck that allows them to get up underneath the structure itself. So they've done those inspections. They feel good about opening at least a couple of lanes at some point. But what we have to do, it's not just as easy as open some barrels and let everybody drive on it. There's a lot of coordination that needs to happen between Ohio and Kentucky, because obviously we're going to have to keep the left lane closed at the very minimum because of that sign truss that's up there. And so coordinating where that closure begins and then what lanes open in Kentucky, there's a lot of work that has to be done between the two states. That's what we've been working on and will continue to work on. So we don't have a timetable yet, but hopefully not in the too distant future. We'll see.
Got one more question?
The next big event we have this weekend is, of course, the Bengals are playing at home. What advice do you have for folks that are coming down to this area for the game on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, just like anything else with a situation where you have a big traffic impact, planning ahead is going to be key. Can't stress it enough. If it normally takes you X amount of time to get from your house to Paycor Stadium, I would add some time to that, because this is going to have a ripple effect of people trying to move through this area. People who use this bridge every day are going to have to use a different bridge. So about 110,000 vehicles a day use this bridge. That traffic has to go somewhere else. And so it's just going to be a ripple effect. Planning ahead and being patient is going to be really key.
Assistant Chief, can you just talk about when you got here, the scale of the fire, based off your experience with the scene?
Yeah, it was an intense amount of fire when the firefighters first arrived. We had a lot of fire that was transmitting up, so the synthetic materials like the chief spoke about, it was very intense. Luckily, we have a very well-equipped and well-trained firefighting force, and firefighters took immediate action, knocked the fire down very quickly, but it was intense, and you saw from the footage that I've seen shared publicly that it was pretty dramatic when the firefighters first arrived.
Okay, and we want to thank you all again, and we will be reaching out to let you know when the next press conference will be. So thank you.
Thank you all. Like I said, we're happy to do a little escorted moment to get up a little bit closer if anyone wants to get photos up close. Just give us a second here. And anyone who wants to follow me over there, we can do that now.